And good morning and welcome to this week's Grow, where we gather to recharge, organize, and work here as members of MWEG. We are so glad that you're joining us, and we are happy to share with you some of the accomplishments that MWEG has had during 2023. We share often in the Facebook discussion group and on MWEG Central with our members individual things throughout the year and events that we have throughout the year, but this is a great way to see a culmination of all of our efforts of the members, that's all of you, joining in and helping us make MWEG a wonderful place and have great growth over the past year. So I'm going to turn the time over to Megan Seawright, who is our Director of Communications here at MWEG, to share with us. And we have some other MWEG leaders who will join in and share their different areas of accomplishment. So go ahead, Megan.
All right, thanks, Rachel. So I would love to also just hear from any of you that are here on Zoom or in the chat later. Just as we go along, if you've had experiences with any of the things we're talking about that you want to share, we'd just love to hear your experiences or involvement with any of these things, whether it's events or calls to action or chapters or whatever it is. So this is going to be just kind of a quick overview. The stats that are in the slideshow I'm going to share are all from 2023, but I'll give you some updated numbers for what we've done so far in 2024 as we go. We just haven't made that slideshow yet since the year isn't done. But we made this kind of in conjunction with the conference to reflect on the past year as we were heading into the conference a month ago and going over kind of our strategic goals for the past year and reviewing some of those things to build out our annual report. We were just kind of gathering data and wanted to share some of those highlights with all of you. So I'm going to share, I'm going to share my screen if I can get it to work. Here we go. Okay. All right, are you guys seeing the slideshow? Well, the first slide. Let's go into slideshow mode and hopefully, there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this, and I've invited a few other people from some of our MWEG team to talk about a few of them. But again, anyone who's here and participating, if you have something you want to share, we'd love to hear your thoughts and perspective on any of these accomplishments and events and things that MWEG has done as an organization and as members throughout the past year. All right. So we've been pretty busy. I think we can all agree on that, especially those of us behind the scenes. We've been working on a lot of things, so let's take a look at some of those.
Megan, the slideshow says it's still loading for me.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I could see it right before you clicked go into presentation mode, but and then I just have a black screen that says loading.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Yes, but it's not presentation mode.
Well, I guess we'll just have to not be in presentation mode.
It's fine with me. So but it's on like the third slide.
Yes. Does it say connecting with members?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we don't get to see all of the beautiful slide transitions then, I guess, but we'll see what we can do. We'll do our best. Okay. So here's some of the things we've been doing over the past year. Connecting with other members at over 50 chapter events in 2023. And I know so far this year, we've had several chapters have done a day at the Capitol event, some virtual chapter meetings, some in-person chapter meetings. Let's see, anyone here have anything they want to share about chapter events? I don't know. I don't know if we have any chapter leaders here. We might. If someone has a thought, feel free to pipe in. But we've done lots of awesome chapter events. I know some of our chapters last summer did some hikes. We've done advocacy events like the Idaho chapter doing signature gathering events. I know the Utah chapter did a day at the Capitol event. So lots of awesome work happening there. Okay. Oh, and here, yes, gathering hundreds of signatures for the Idaho ballot initiative. And I know Margaret was sharing in MWEG Central this week that they are so close to having enough signatures. They're pushing to the finish line and really hoping to get this initiative on the ballot. I know they've been working for months now on this, and this is a big accomplishment for our Idaho chapter and very exciting. A attending and speaking at 13 pro-democracy and bridge building conferences. I was able to attend one of those earlier. I don't think it actually is counted on this 13 number because it was this year, but back in February, this really cool event with a bunch of people from different organizations all around the country kind of coming together to brainstorm and talk about ideas of like, what can we do to reach people and make a difference in this pro-democracy space in sort of bringing people together across these divides. And it was just a really cool opportunity to meet people from other organizations who are doing similar to work to what we're doing and see how we can kind of boost each other's efforts to have a greater impact there. And Jessica, I know you've attended some of these. I don't know if you have anything you want to tell us about any of those.
Sure, happy to talk about them. So I attended two pro-democracy conferences. The first one was the American Democracy Conference, ADS Summit, American Democracy Summit. And that's kind of the huge kind of premier conference they have once a year. It's annual, with all the different organizations and individuals who are involved in kind of the pro-democracy movement. And it's massive. And I was there with Emma. Emma presented on two of the panels. One was about faith in democracy, and the other was another faith. How can faith groups be involved in this type of movement? And of course, she did amazing. And these conferences are really exciting for the reasons you just mentioned. You get to meet with lots of other people who are trying to do the same thing that you're doing. It just really boosts you and gives you that kind of energy to just keep going sometimes when things seem, maybe a little bit I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to say depressing, but sometimes you just kind of feel like, oh, does it even matter? And you really feel like it does. And it's great to connect with people that are just really in so many ways different than us, but have the same objectives and the same goals. So that was the first conference we were at. And the second conference was a much smaller group, and it was with the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers, and they go by NANNER is kind of how we refer to them. And so obviously, because these are just nonpartisan groups, and you have to be, they really vet your organization to make sure that you really are trying to be nonpartisan. So that one was really exciting for me specifically because I work with a ton of these people online. And this was the first time I got to meet these people in person after a year of working with them. So the folks that are running the Idaho initiative were there. Our friends from Veterans were there. Our friends with Represent Women were there. And so it was great. So we all just kind of get together. They have panels. Of course, Emma presented on one of the panels there. Jen spoke on a panel, Jen Thomas, and it was just great being part of that group. And for us, it's very helpful because people are doing different things in different places, and it helps give us an opportunity to learn from how they're doing it. We can read about things online, but just listening to people who actually ran a campaign or who actually have a grassroots movement behind them, who are trying to motivate people, just learning different ways to do things is super helpful. And also, again, just the collaborative feeling of really hundreds of people who represent organizations with thousands of people really trying to make an impact, motivate people to get involved in local politics and national politics. And so those were both, I think, one yielded a lot of good information for us as an organization to be able to move forward where we want to, focus our energies, because as you know, there's always so much going on, and where are we going to make the best and most impact. So those were the two I went to this year. There's a couple more upcoming. Kind of the big one that's upcoming is with American Promise, which is the organization that's doing everything they can and really leading the charge on trying to get money out of politics, which is an area that we're very interested in. So excited to go to that one and learn.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. And I know one of the things that Emma always tells us after she goes to these events, is that everyone is blown away when she tells them about our members and all the things they're doing. And they're just so blown away that we have this group of women who are all invested, and like politics is not our whole lives. Like we're all busy doing other things in our lives, but we've structured MWEG in a way to allow all of you to get involved when and where and how you're able to, and the difference that that can make. So they're all like, can we take what you're doing and just scale it for everyone? So it's a great opportunity to really highlight that just like the little things that we can do individually collectively makes a big difference.
Now, that's a good point, Megan. I do feel like at these conferences, while we're learning a lot, that they're really learning a lot from us, and so it's just this idea of this collaboration and sharing how we do things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, next one says advocating at the state level in response to 10 state bills and working with state level agencies and commissions on environmental issues. So the 10 state bills, this was in 2023. I know some of our chapters have already done some bills again this year because they already had their legislative sessions. Some of them have ongoing things. Christy, most of our state level agencies and commission stuff kind of falls under you. I don't know if you just want to share briefly like a couple of things maybe that we were able to accomplish through that work.
Sure. So in 2023, we were pretty heavily involved in 3 different state legislative sessions, specifically Utah, Nevada, and Arizona. Mostly what we were doing in those sessions is advocating against some bills that would have made it more difficult or cumbersome to participate in a clean energy transition. And just were basically propping up fossil fuels. So those are mostly what we got involved in. It wasn't anything that exciting. There wasn't any bill that we were particularly supporting. There were just a few that weren't good policy and weren't good for future utility planning. So we advocated against those. But probably the most exciting thing we were involved in 2023 and for a couple of years before that was the designation of Aviquame National Monument. So that's a really beautiful area of desert land that already had some protections, but not as many as a national monument has. It's in southern Nevada, so south of the Las Vegas area. And there in the center picture, you can see me there with Paulette Stauffer-Henriot, who is our Nevada chapter lead and also the person who does most of our environmental work there in Nevada. And she had been really involved in a coalition that did a lot of work to get support for Aviquame at a bunch of different levels of government. So she attended city council meetings that were adjacent to the monument. She did a lot of work at the county council, and then also a resolution at the state level supporting the designation of this area as a national monument. So the national monument designation comes from the federal government, but they want to show that there's a lot of local support for the designation. So that's something she worked on for quite a few years, and we were really excited when the designation was announced in early 2023. And it just so happened that I was in the area the weekend the signs went up and they made it official for the National Monument. So we went out and got a picture with the new Aviquame sign, and it was really exciting. And the culmination of really a lot of months of hard work on our part and on the part of the other coalition members. So that was really exciting and a really rewarding movement to be a part of there in Nevada. Other than that, we showed up at a few different administrative agencies on the state level, specifically the Arizona Corporation Commission in Arizona and the Nevada Public Utility Commission, just working on some pretty technical rate cases and utility planning cases. So I won't get too into those, but We are out there doing this work. It's pretty specific, but it really matters a lot to the people in these areas who are governed by these administrative agencies. So I think most people probably aren't aware that more than likely they live under a regulated monopoly system for their utilities. So there is a administrative agency that's tasked with regulating this single utility that provides power or water or whatever utility service. And so that regulator can have a lot of impact on people's day-to-day lives, the rates they pay, the sources of their electricity. And so we are really involved in a couple of states in sort of those kind of very micro issues, but that are really impactful on an individual level. So I won't get too into that and let you move on with the presentation, but we do have a lot of things going on the state level in environmental work, both in 2023 and currently.
Thanks, Christy. Yeah, I know a lot of times we think of advocacy as being like these big, huge bills that everyone's talking about, but a lot of those don't impact our lives directly in the same way that these local issues do that your team is working on. And so I think it's really valuable to realize like, hey, there's only like 5 people even talking to their elected officials about this. We can really move the needle and it actually will impact my life really directly. And so that's what I love about the work that your team is doing and getting our members in those areas, in those states to work on. Okay, I think I figured out the issue with the screen share. So I'm going to stop sharing real quick and then see if I can get it to work again. Okay, we're going to try this. Can you see it now, or is it not showing?
Yep,
it is
working.
Okay, good. Okay. Good, because the next one has a video and I was like, I don't think it'll play unless I'm in presentation mode. Okay. So this is just a little short walkthrough of how you can get involved with your chapter, because we just talked about chapter events. We talked about some of our chapter advocacy. I want to show you how you can get involved in your chapter. So let's see. Hopefully this is playing. Okay, so you go into MWAG Central. That's just central.mwag.org. Down the left-hand side, you won't see all of these chapters because you don't live in all of these states. I'm an admin, that's why I can see all of them, but you should just be added to your chapter automatically when you create your account, and then because you have to put in your state and it'll automatically add you to your chapter. And then from there, you can see there is a discussion space for each chapter, an event space for each chapter, and a directory for each chapter so you can connect with other people in your chapter. This is going to be the easiest and best way for you to know what's going on in your state with MWAG work. So if your chapter's having an event coming up, if there's an issue that you're advocating for and they have a call to action for that, if they're doing a day at the Capitol, any of that kind of stuff, or if you're just like, hey, there's this issue happening, I don't know what to do about it, you can kind of get in a discussion with other people that live in your state. And we don't have chapters in every state at this point, but we do have, I think, 13, at least 13 states that have chapters right now. And we are building those up and growing those. So get involved there. Okay. Oh, I think it's trying to play the same video again. Go to the next slide. Okay. So this is just a quote from one of our members. She said, MWAG has taught me that it's not enough to talk about something, it's important to do something. So this is where we're encouraging people to get involved in their chapters, in our advocacy work, and just some highlights of some things that some of our members have been doing. In 2023, they wrote 787 letters to 158 members of Congress and published 70 op-eds and letters to the editor. So that was in 2023. Already in 2024, let's see, we've had over 500 letters to elected officials, reaching 116 members of Congress so far. So we're not quite as many, but we're getting close. and over 20 op-eds published already this year. So those are some pretty good numbers for only being a little way into the year so far, over 500 letters already. So last year, I'm trying to think what our calls to action were last year that we were sending letters about. One of them was, I know, the child tax credit, which we're still working on. I know one of them was, I think, the Afghan Adjustment Act. Jessica, do you remember the other ones from last year? I can't remember off the top of my head. That's okay. But right now, I know we're still working on the child tax credit and the Building Civic Bridges Act. This does not like to work for me. Okay, so these are areas of advocacy. And then, Jessica, if you want to talk any more about kind of what's going on in those areas, you can. So protecting democracy shoulder to shoulder, that's our immigration and refugee work. Caring for creation, that's Christy's area that she talked about, where we're doing a lot of our local advocacy work. Supporting children and families, that's where the child tax credit advocacy falls under. And then rooting out racism, where we're primarily focused on our UROAR initiative, which we'll talk about in just a second. Jessica, did you have anything you want to add about our advocacy work that's happening right now?
Yeah, so most of our work is continuation of the work that we were doing last year. So the child tax credit, it looks like Congress is also going to introduce a paid family medical leave act that we'll get behind. On the state level, we're doing a lot of work protecting ballot initiatives. So a lot of the states are trying, so about half of the states allow for a ballot initiative, and ballot initiatives are really a form of direct democracy. It works as a really crucial check on the power of state governments, and ballot measures they're nonpartisan in every way. Both parties use them. Some organizations that aren't affiliated with parties use them. Um, and not only are they an important way to express the will of the people, but they also actually carry the authority to be directly implemented. And so when we usually do laws and stuff, it goes to our representatives, but ballot measures, allow us to directly implement. And so we've been spending a lot of time in all of the states that we work in, Utah, Idaho, Nevada, Arizona. They're really hammering away at this right and this ability. And in all of those states, those are rights that are within the state constitution. So that's where we're spending a lot of time right now on the democracy front. And, with the Afghan Adjustment Act, and then our shoulder to shoulder are doing work down at the border. They're going to talk about that in a couple of weeks in the Grow. So we're busy.
Lots going on all the time. Yeah, so just be watching for calls to action and ways to get involved. I'm actually going to show you how, if one of these particular areas, okay, so this is rooting out racism. This is our UROAR coalition. If you live in Utah, you can get involved with them. They're working specifically on racism in schools. If you don't live in Utah, I still encourage you to follow their Instagram account because they share a lot of really good resources about handling racism and racial issues, talking to kids about these issues, dealing with it in your schools and communities. So highly recommend the things that they're working on. We're also doing our Advocacy Academy. Christy, I don't know if you want to take just a minute and kind of tell people what that is. I don't know if you have another one planned yet, but I know we've done a few.
Right. So we kind of thought about Advocacy Academy as sort of a two-pronged approach to training our members to be advocates. And the first part of it is kind of a training about the procedure, like how legislatures work, how administrative agencies work, so that you understand sort of the systems that we work within. And then I specifically have been working on one that is substantively about environmental issues and ways the policy affects outcomes in our environment. So I, in 2023, taught 2 8-week courses in Arizona of the Advocacy Academy, and we talked a lot specifically about water issues in the West. We talked about utilities and utility regulation. We talked about land use. And then we talked about some of the participant specific questions about environmental issues, as well as covering all of the procedural aspects of advocacy. So it was really great. I think we had 9 or 10 grads from Advocacy Academy from Arizona last year. And we have also already run a session in Nevada earlier this year, focusing on more Nevada specific issues. And later this year, we're working on branching Advocacy Academy out to different advocacy areas, but still with a focus on how to get involved in legislatures and agencies and things like that. So we're pretty excited about it. The people who have been through the course have really felt more comfortable being advocates and getting involved in, appearing before administrative agencies or testifying before hearings in legislatures. So it kind of makes the whole thing less intimidating and more accessible. We kind of spend a lot of time just like watching like these things play out. Like, how does the legislature work? We'll watch a hearing and see what happens. And then it's a lot less scary to engage with when it's, a known quantity. So yeah, we're working on going forward, opening Advocacy Academy up to different areas and also to different advocacy focuses.
Thank you. Yeah, it's such a great program, and it's not just knowing more about it, it's having friends to go along with you, right? Like, you have this cohort that you go through the academy with, and then it's kind of like, okay, they've got my back, like we can do this together, and you just kind of have that support system, and you can, kind of crowdsource a little bit together of like, okay, I want to advocate about this thing and kind of work through it together to figure out what to do there. So it's nice to have the skills and the support, and it's awesome. So we're excited to see where that goes from here, and how other women in MWEG can get involved with that. Okay, so here's one way you can get involved. If one of these advocacy areas really speaks to you as something you're really excited and passionate about, or maybe more than one, or you just kind of want to learn a little more about it, come into MWEG Central, and you'll see on the left-hand side, we've got our advocacy areas in that left-hand menu. And so you can see that was caring for creation, protecting democracy. We've got people in there discussing and talking. And if you want to join, you just go up to that right-hand corner and click join space. And it works the same on desktop or app. You just scroll down the menu till you find that advocacy area. And then if you haven't joined it yet, you just click on the thing, click join space, and then you're just in, and you can follow along with the discussion. You can participate in the discussion. You can stay on top of what those advocacy areas are working on. Okay. No, I don't want you to play again. There we go. It always wants to play the video twice, and I don't know why. So here's just a little quote from our friend Christy, who used to be on other Christy's team doing environmental advocacy. And now she was a volunteer. She's still just a member engaged, but had some other things in her life, so she's not volunteering with us right now. But she said, MWEG has helped me see that regular people do the heavy lifting in changing the world, and MWEG provides a loving space to learn how to get active in that change-making sphere. So we just love that quote, and the idea that you don't have to be this Wonder Woman person who changes the whole world by yourself, right? It's each of us doing our little pieces together that really makes the difference. Okay, just a few more things before we wrap up. Just some of the other things we've been doing. We've done some awesome events like our Safer World webinar, our living room conversations that I think we do at least a few a month typically, and you can find those in the event space in MWEG Central, along with our grows, which we're doing today. Let's see. We have our practical peacemaking resources, which I've actually used to teach a couple of different church activities, which has been really awesome. It's just going through conflict resolution skills through a gospel lens, and it's an awesome program. If you haven't taken a look at it, highly recommend it. We've got our book group, we've got our podcast, we've got a lot going on. There's lots of ways for you to get involved in the topics and areas and things that fit your interests. So I'm going to show you how to find events so that you can join in if you want to join book group, if you want to join the grows, if you have other events, if we have other events coming up that you're interested in. Again, go to MWEG Central, click on member events in that left-hand menu, and it'll show you all the upcoming events. You can just go to them. You can click RSVP. If you RSVP, you can actually, after you RSVP, you can just add it to your calendar so it'll remind you, but you can also set it to send you reminders from MWEG Central as well if you don't want to add it to your own calendar. So super convenient, really awesome way to find all the events that are coming up for MWEG. If your chapter specifically is hosting an event, that will be down in your chapter events. So, yep, it's trying to play again. Here we go. Okay, and speaking of events, we've done a really awesome series of events with our Women Making Peace screenings of the abortion talks, which has been renamed to Public Enemies, Private Friends. Is that it? Okay.
Correct. Yep.
So last year we had over 450 women who participated in either our in-person or our virtual screenings. And Rachel, I know we just did another one last week. Do you want to tell us a little about that one?
Sure. We had last week was our National Week of Conversation, which we collaborated with some other organizations on having peaceful dialogue and communication. So we hosted another screening of this documentary in which we had about 50 people participate and host screenings in their homes. So and then with that, we did a little bit of training, just not necessarily of how to communicate, but just we asked some questions to those who were participating to have within their little groups that they were watching with, to just kind of have a peaceful discussion and dialogue about how certain things maybe change their point of view or how they can be peacemakers in their community. So it was a great event. It was a little bit different than ones we've done in the past, but nonetheless, it was, last week's was focused on conversation specifically. So it was really great. And we hope to do some more events like this, maybe not necessarily with the same documentary, but we are looking at other films that have been made around dialogue or around peacemaking that we can share with our members. So as Megan's talking about events that are coming up, be sure that you click in and look at some of those MWEG events that we will post there so you can be in the know of what's coming up.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. And this is just a quote actually from a young woman, I think she was a college student who came to one of the in-person screenings last year. And she just shared some of her takeaways, and she said it's possible to create unity among such a huge divide. I loved how they were able to take two completely different opinions and create a place of unity, welcome, and love. And so that's kind of her takeaway from that film. And that's exactly what we want people to be taking away from these types of events, that it's okay to have different opinions and we can share them and still be friends and still make a difference in the areas that we're concerned about, and build unity, even if we don't all agree on the same thing. So I loved her perspective on that. So last thing is just, if you're not on MWEG Central yet, join us there. This is going to be the most critical place for MWEG moving forward, for our members and for our community to stay in the loop on all of our events, calls to action, advocacy work, upcoming things like the Advocacy Academy or other events and projects that MWEG is working on. So you can scan the QR code right there, or just go to central.mweg.org and find us there. All right. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, everyone who was here today and shared your experiences.
Oh, Megan, can I jump in really fast?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I'm on my phone and trying to figure out how to turn on my camera. There it is. Maybe. I don't know if you can see me. But anyway, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're going to be starting a new little feature on Central that will kind of keep you a little bit more updated on all of these exciting things that we have going on. It's going to be called MWEG Wins. We've been doing it in our leadership and volunteer space, where we get to kind of share the exciting things that happen each month that each team does. But we want to extend that to Central so that we make sure that all of our members are kind of getting a little bit more regular updates on some of maybe the things that aren't making it into the newsletter. But it will also give us a chance to tag the individual women who are involved on the different volunteer teams, or maybe members that we know that have helped. So just keep an eye out for that, because we'll be starting it really soon, to just be able to share what we consider wins, even when they might seem small baby steps. So keep an eye out for that.
Yes, thank you, Jiller. I meant to say that, so thank you for reminding me. But yeah, and even our members, if you're like, hey, I attended this chapter event and it was really awesome, we want to hear about it. If you wrote to your member of Congress or called them or something, we want to hear about it. We want to celebrate these steps that we're taking together so that we can see like where and how and why we're making a difference in these different areas we're involved in.
Yep, it's such a great way when we get to look at this as an overall participation thing, and we just couldn't do, and why couldn't do what we're, or accomplish what we're doing without our members. So we want to thank our members for staying engaged and you know, responding when we put out a call to action, or writing those letters or making those calls, and also just being active in your communities and in your states. So thank you for being with us on this Grow, and thank you for being here with us at MWEG. Invite your friends, if you know, and share that stuff. You can always share this Grow. It will be in the YouTube playlist. You can, we've posted a couple videos, one for our sustaining members of our keynote speaker from our conference, and then we have made a public post of Melissa Inouye's plenary session from the conference just last month. So if you would want to share that with your friends, go ahead and share that public link. We would love for anybody to hear her message of sisterhood and unity and and being active in your community. So we just want to invite all of you to do that. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'm going to post this video in the Facebook discussion group and share, or put it in MWEG Central, and we will add that. Or if you have ideas of things that you might want MWEG to get involved with, or ideas of things that we can participate in, we also like to hear suggestions that way too, to see how it would fit in with our advocacy work and our mission to be active peacemakers. So thank you for being here. We're going to take a break from the Grow next week, and then we'll be back on May 9th to hear from some of the MWEG members and leaders who recently took a trip to the border in Texas, and just hear their experiences so that we can get a firsthand view from some MWEG people. So we hope you'll join us in a couple of weeks. Until then, thanks everybody for joining us. See you later.